Part 8. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, De Chuan-Chi. Chapter 71. Just as he finished speaking, the system voice rang. Congratulations to the host for completing the daily task. Go to school with Spider-Man Parker to register, and let Parker and the host become real friends who can talk about anything. The reward for completing the task is 1000 experience points. Google search reading. Because of the recognition of Spider-Man Parker, a special task is triggered. Make a spinner for Spider-Man, design a Spider-Man suit for Spider-Man. The technology level is insufficient, and only a stab-proof Spider-Man suit synthesized in space with special materials can be made. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the spinner manufacturing drawings. After completing the task, the reward is strength and physical attributes *1, and experience points are 1000. Hearing the news from the system, Yejeju was really surprised. He didn't expect that after completing the daily tasks, there would be unexpected surprises, especially the spinner, which is indispensable to Parker and a powerful helper for him. Imagine that in the future, in the battle, suddenly flipping the wrist, spraying countless spider silk to trap the enemy, or using spider silk to escape and evacuate. Just thinking about it feels exciting. Thinking of this, Yejeju pretended to be excited and talked to Parker about the characteristics of spiders, and just raised the question about spider silk. This topic immediately attracted Parker's attention. He recalled the spider abilities he currently possessed in his mind, but sadly found that he lacked the most powerful and indispensable ability of spiders, that is, the ability to spin silk. Thinking of this, Parker suddenly became distressed. He looked at Yejeju with a sad face and said helplessly, "What should I do? Yeah. I have almost all the abilities of a spider, but I only lack the ability to spin silk. Am I a failed Spider-Man?" Hearing this, Yejeju also knew that the time had come, so he patted his chest and pretended to know everything and said, "What's so difficult about this? Without the ability to spin silk, can't we artificially create tools that can spin silk instead?" After that, Yejeju reached out and patted Parker's shoulder heavily, and said to Parker, "It's okay, Parker, I said I would help you. In my opinion, it is not difficult to make a tool for spinning silk. What we have to pay attention to is whether the artificially made spider silk can bear enough weight and will not cause it to break when you use it. Come on, Parker. Let's go to my workshop together, and I will help you make your own spinning tool now." After that, Yejeju took Parker, who was still confused and excited, and went straight to the workshop. In fact, Yejeju brought Parker to the workshop as an excuse. He had the manufacturing drawings of the spinneret in his current space, but if he wanted to make a spinneret with enough black technology, he had to do it in the space. This was easy to handle. The two of them could do it separately, and Yejeju only needed to take out the spinneret made in the space and give it to Parker before Parker studied the spinneret he originally made in the play, and he could successfully complete the system's task. Then, Yejeju asked Parker to choose a location and design the spinneret by himself. As for the materials, he could use local materials or even order them online. Parker was indeed a top student. He designed his own spinneret in just 1 hour. Of course, because of the materials, he couldn't make it now. Yejeju was different. He made it in the space according to the drawings provided by the system. Not to mention making a spinneret with black technology, it was really troublesome. There were more than a dozen materials. Fortunately, there was everything in the space. He only needed to use the energy conversion furnace to convert and manufacture to get the materials Yejeju needed. After the material parts were manufactured, the remaining part was assembly. This was not difficult at all in the mechanical space. In just over an hour, Yejeju made 4 spinners. Taking out 4 spinners from the space, Yejeju excitedly took them in his hands and looked at them from left to right. The spinner looked like a thin coin-sized disc, and the whole body was black. The material was like metal but not metal, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. But Yejuju knew that this black technology spinner was completely waterproof, anti-electric, and anti-collision. It can be said that its performance completely surpassed the spinner used by Parker in the Spider-Man movie. The spider silk in the spinner was much more than the original spinner, and its bearing capacity was more than doubled. After watching the 4 spinners excitedly, he equipped 2 of them on his wrists. As soon as the spinners were close to his wrists, 2 wristbands were ejected from both sides with a click, firmly fixing the spinners on Yejuju's wrists. The method of using the spinner is also very simple. Just raise your hand, press your palm downward, and spider silk will be ejected from the nozzle. The magical thing is that it can also eject spider silk of different lengths according to the user's wishes, which can be used for high-altitude hanging and moving. It can also eject small spider webs, which can be used to trap the enemy's hands and feet. As for the principle of this thing, to be honest, Yejuju doesn't understand it very well, and doesn't want to find out the truth. After all, this thing is only an auxiliary role for Yejuju, and he can't always rely on this little thing to fight. In fact, there is only one reason. He is just Yejuju, a mechanical hunter. He is not Parker, let alone Spider-Man. Holding the remaining 2 spinners, Yejuju came to Parker, who was still calculating the results on the drawings. Yejuju spread his hands and showed the 2 spinners to Parker, and said arrogantly, "Look, Parker. This is the spinner I developed. How about it? Awesome, right?" Hearing this, Parker raised his head in disbelief, looked at the spinneret in Yejuju's hand, and then shouted exaggeratedly, "Wow! Is this true? My God! You are so amazing, yeah. I just had a little idea, and you have already made it? You are really a genius." After saying this, Parker couldn't wait to pick up the 2 spinnerets from Yejuju's hand. After looking at them left and right in his hand for a while, he asked in confusion, "Yeah, how to equip this thing? How to use it?" Hearing this, Yejuju raised his eyebrows and said to Parker proudly, "You put the spinneret close to your wrist, it will automatically fix and transmit the use function to your brain." Hearing this, Parker looked down at the 2 small discs in his hand with a little disbelief, and then followed Yejuju's words and placed the 2 spinnerets on his left and right wrists respectively. The next moment, Parker was shocked. The spinner was fixed on his wrist, and Parker was not surprised at all, but the information transmitted from the spinner into his brain shocked him. This small spinner gave Parker a feeling of being too advanced, and he was even more shocked by the powerful function of the spinner. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 72. Seeing Parker's excited and shocked expression, Yejuju thought that the system mission still lacked a Spider-Man suit, so he left a message to Parker. "Parker, you can familiarize yourself with the function of the spinner first, and I will also design a suit for you. There is no way you can just wear a coat and go out to be Spider-Man. Haha." After saying that, Yejuju ignored Parker's grateful eyes, turned around and walked away. Google search reading. You know, this task is related to a reward of strength and physical attribute points, and Yejuju doesn't dare to be careless. If he waits for Parker to design his own suit, this task will be over. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Even though the suit that Parker designed for the first time, to be honest, really stretched the crotch and was baggy like a set of pajamas, it was still a suit after all, not a suit. After returning to his position, Yejuju sighed helplessly after his excitement passed. The reason is, of course, that although there are a lot of materials in the space, the only thing missing is the fabric of the stab-resistant suit made of special materials, which cannot be used to make Spider-Man's suit. In desperation, Yejuju had no choice but to draw Parker wearing the Spider-Man suit on the drawing based on the Spider-Man suit worn by Parker in the movie. Not to mention, the original Yejeju had some talent in painting. Although his painting was not very marvelous, he could still draw the essence of Spider-Man's suit. The red grid-like headgear and silver-white goggles for the eyes. The tight-fitting suit is also grid-shaped with red at the top and blue at the bottom. When worn close to the body, there is a large spider pattern logo on the chest, which looks very nice. When he came to Parker with the drawings of his own designed suit, Parker was excitedly spraying spider silk on the surrounding walls with both hands and wrists. He looked like a big kid who got a fun toy, well, a bit like a naughty kid. Octavia's indifference let Parker know that someone was approaching him, and he immediately turned around and looked over. He saw that it was Yejeju who was coming, holding a piece of paper in his hand, and he could vaguely see what was drawn on it. Parker suddenly smiled and said to Yejeju, "Yeah, you're here. Thank you so much. This spinneret is so easy to use. I feel like a real spider. It's so cool, hee hee." Having said this, Parker laughed awkwardly and raised his hand to pat his head. He was embarrassed because he saw that the walls were covered with large and small spider webs that he had sprayed out with his spinneret. "Stand up." Yejeju didn't care. If it weren't for the system task, he would be like Parker, spraying spider silk everywhere to test the function of the spinneret. Before Parker could continue, Yejeju stepped forward, handed the drawing in his hand to Parker and said, "Here, this is the battle suit I designed for you. Do you like it?" Hearing this, Parker immediately became interested. At first, he heard Yejeju say that he wanted to design a battle suit for him. He thought Yejeju was joking. When he got the drawings, Parker opened his mouth in surprise. He also shouted, "Oh my God! Yeah! Is this my future suit? It's so cool! I really like this suit, oh, I can't wait to wear it." Hearing this, Yejeju shrugged easily and said, "Of course. I believe that as long as you wear this suit, countless people will scream for you. Of course, I plan to use the fabric of the stab-proof suit as the material of the suit, so that you can wear it after wearing it. It has enough breathability and is resistant to knife stabs. I'll wait until I buy the material tomorrow." Hearing this, Parker suddenly fell silent. He was really moved by everything Yejeju had done for him. Not only was Ye the first person to understand and encourage him after he mutated, he was also grateful to Yejeju for making him a spinning device and designing a suit for him that suited him. To be honest, if Yejeju wasn't as old as him, he would have thought Yejeju was his father. Take such good care of him. Seeing Parker's expression, Yejeju asked in confusion, "Parker, what's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly unhappy?" Hearing this, Parker raised his head, with tears flashing in his eyes. He suddenly stepped forward, protected Yejeju, and kept saying, "Thank you so much, Ye. You are so kind to me. I don't even know how to thank you. Hearing this, Yejeju realized that what he had done had touched Parker. He couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed and wanted to tell Parker, "I'm really not doing it for you, brother. I am doing this to complete system tasks. You really misunderstood me." Thinking so, Yejeju would not say it stupidly, so he reached out and patted Parker on the back and said, "Parker, you don't have to do this at all. We are best friends, aren't we? We will still be good brothers and partners who fight side by side in the future, right?" Hearing this, Parker didn't say anything, just nodded heavily, said a heavy reached out and patted Yejeju's back several times. After these few shots, even with Yejeju's current physical attributes, the shots made his back hurt. Parker had actually forgotten about it, because he came to see Yejeju just after he got the ability. Before he had time to get familiar with his sudden surge in power, these few slaps were too strong because he was in a state of excitement. He didn't notice Yejeju's abnormality. Maybe when he calmed down, he would think that Yejeju was just an ordinary person, Why did he have such a strong ability to withstand blows? After a long while, Parker regained his composure. After leaving Yejuju's arms, he looked at Yejuju and said, "Yeah, from now on you are my best friend and best partner. Let's work hard together." Yejuju nodded casually and thought, "Yes. I have to work hard. Otherwise, when Thanos comes, we may all turn into ashes together." Thinking of this, Yejuju grabbed Parker's arm and said as he walked out, "Parker, you have just gained the ability, and you still need to adapt constantly to control your ability and not hurt unnecessary people. Let's go. Let's go out together and take advantage of the dead of night to fully master your ability." Hearing this, Parker nodded in agreement, and excitedly went out of the house with Yejuju, and came to the woods to get familiar with his ability. Seeing Parker leaping and hopping in the forest like a real spider, Yejuju was very pleased and began to make a plan in his mind on how to train Parker to fight. This wait lasted for 2 hours. After Parker had adapted to his abilities, the two returned to Yejuju's home. It was too late and they both went to sleep. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 73. The next day, they got up early, made some breakfast and went to school together. On this day, Parker was obviously different from before. He was more confident. He raised his head high when he saw people. When he saw Gwen, he dared to greet Gwen. Seeing Parker's changes, Yejuju was also very satisfied with the current Parker. After school in the afternoon, the two couldn't wait to return to Yejuju's home. Because today, they can sew the battle suit designed by Yejuju for Parker. The materials have been purchased. Yejuju found an opportunity to put all the materials into the space and synthesize them into a special stab-proof fabric. Not to mention that this kind of fabric is lighter and stronger than the stab-proof fabric on the market, which fully reflects the black technology capabilities of the mechanical space. Of course, with this advanced material, Yejuju naturally prepared a set of fabrics for himself, and when he has free time, he will also make a tight stab-proof suit for himself. Yejuju naturally didn't need to wear a tight stab-proof suit to appear in front of outsiders, but it didn't prevent him from wearing the stab-proof suit inside. It was also good as a layer of security, wasn't it? Sewing clothes was not what Yejuju was good at. Parker personally sewed the clothes with a sewing machine. Yejuju just helped. More than an hour later, when Parker came out of the bathroom, what Yejuju saw was the Spider-Man who had once earned billions of box office, appearing alive in front of him. Looking at the familiar Marvel characters he liked in front of him, Yejuju was also full of emotion. Thinking that the Spider-Man in this world got the awesome nano suit with the help of Tony, the Iron Man, Yejuju couldn't help thinking in his heart. If the Spider-Man in this world has his own mechanical hunter, does he still need Tony to help Parker? So, Parker regards Tony as his father. What will Parker do if it were me? While thinking about it, Parker walked in front of Yejuju, patted Yejuju on the shoulder and said, "Hey, man. Do I look cool in this outfit?" Hearing this, Yejuju came back to his senses, raised his right hand and gave Parker a thumbs up and said, "Cool, so cool." Just after he finished speaking, the system voice sounded at the right time. Congratulations to the host for completing the special task. Make a spider silk sprayer for Spider-Man, design a Spider-Man suit for Spider-Man. The technology level is insufficient, and only stab-proof Spider-Man suits made of special materials can be made in space. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the spider silk sprayer manufacturing drawings. The task is completed and rewarded with strength and physical attributes *1, and experience 1000. Hearing the system prompt, Yejuju resisted the urge to check the attribute panel immediately, and chatted with Parker intimately. Of course, the topic was still about how to improve Parker's ability. Performance. Next, while it was still early, Yejeju asked Parker to take off his hood and put on a coat over his battlesuit. The two went out to the woods, and Yejeju prepared to formally teach Parker fighting skills. Parker is no longer the same Parker as before. His reaction speed and strength are several times higher than that of ordinary people. He can even fight with Yejeju, whose physical fitness has reached level 5. Naturally, he quickly got into the state of learning fighting skills. From the beginning, he was punched and kicked by Yejeju from time to time, but later the two fought back and forth, and the speed of progress was terrifying. After several hours of fighting training, even the two of them, who were superhuman in physical fitness, felt overwhelmed. They both collapsed on the ground and couldn't get up for a long time. This also made Yejeju feel depressed, and he secretly said, "This Marvel world is perverted, and the body of this mutant superhero is a bagel. I upgraded my physical fitness to level 11, but I was exhausted by Parker. It's really unfair." In fact, Yejeju forgot that no matter how powerful Parker was, his own strength growth would not be as unlimited as his. When his level was high enough, Parker would be far behind him, and even the Hulk, the ceiling of Marvel heroes, would not be his opponent, and Thanos would naturally be completely suppressed by him one day. The two rested for half an hour before returning home arm in arm. After making dinner and eating, they went to bed separately. Lying on the bed, Yejeju had time to open the system panel to check his attribute changes. Name, Yejeju. Age, 16 years old. Occupation, mechanical hunter. Level 11, 5700/11,000. Attributes. Strength, 5. Stamina, 5. Intelligence, 13. Spirit, 13. Agility, 13. Speed, 21 m/s. Energy, 1300, 13 points/minute. Recovery speed. Occupational talents and skills. 1 intermediate combat master. 2 intermediate mechanical master. Pet, mechanical dog, wolf warrior *2. Mount, chasing wind. Special space, mechanical manufacturing space 1000 square meters. Drawings, 0. Special permissions, 0. Note, time travel function has 0 remaining times. Note, the only mainline super god level mission, kill Thanos and his lackeys. 6 cosmic gems are rewarded for successful mission. Main world mission, get 50 million Me gold to buy vibranium, and reward 1000 experience. World hidden mission 1, eradicate the Kingpin group, reward 1000 experience and 50 million cash. The increase in attributes only made Yejeju happy for a while, but he was surprised when he saw the system task. Because he saw the last hidden task 1 in the world. Eliminate the Jinbing group, reward 1000 experience points and 50 million cash. This made Yejeju very depressed about why he didn't see this task information earlier, which made him waste so much time. Eradicating the Jinbing group, what's so difficult about it? Just kill Jinbing and a few heads, and the Jinbing group will collapse, right? Why do you need to deal with his lackeys one by one? Annoyed, Yejeju didn't want to delay anymore, and even didn't care that Parker was in his home. He immediately got up from the bed, put on his clothes, and went downstairs through the window. What he didn't know was that when he fell to the ground, Parker, who was obviously asleep, suddenly opened his eyes. Parker's keen hearing heard the sound of the body falling to the ground, and he immediately sat up from the bed, rushed to the window, and saw Yejeju hurriedly walking towards the street. This made Parker puzzled, and he muttered to himself, "Strange, it's so late, where is Ye going?" After muttering, Parker tilted his head to think about it, and hurriedly turned back to put on the battle suit designed by Yejeju for him, and the hood on his head also flipped out of the window. In this way, Yejeju walked in front, and Parker used spider silk to shuttle between the roofs and secretly followed Yejeju. After leaving the street, Yejeju stopped a taxi and headed towards Hell's Kitchen. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan. Chapter 74. Seeing Yejeju get into the taxi, Parker became even more confused. He was not worried that Yejeju would do anything illegal, he was just worried that his best friend would be in danger, so he hurriedly used spider silk between tall buildings. A chase ensued. The two of them arrived outside Hell's Kitchen one after another. After Yejeju entered Hell's Kitchen, he went to his original position, put on the sportswear in the space, put on a helmet, equipped with a mechanical crossbow and a pistol, and walked out of the hiding place. Walked straight to Jinbin's group building. On a building behind him, Parker squatted on the edge of the roof. Looking at Yejeju, who had changed greatly, the doubts in Parker's mind deepened. Then, Parker followed Yejeju, intending to see what Yejeju was going to do. After entering Hell's Kitchen, Yejeju took out his mobile phone and put it in his pocket, then took out the earphones and put them on his ears. As soon as he put on the earphones, Sky's urgent voice came out. "I thought you disappeared? Yin. It's been a few days, 3 days, and you just came online." Before he could finish speaking, Yejeju interrupted him unceremoniously. "I have something to do these days." Even with a dry sentence, Yejeju did not wait for Sky to speak and continued. The mission has changed. I'm going to kill Jinbin and those big bosses directly. Please monitor Jinbin's movements for me and keep me informed at any time. Do you understand? At this time, Sky was sitting in front of the computer, squatting on the chair with one foot, looking at Yejeju's figure on the screen, holding a cup of coffee in his hand and drinking it in small sips. Hearing this, he almost drank the coffee in his mouth. He squirted it out, and after finally swallowing it, he said, "Is this true? Are you finally going to attack Kingpin? That's great. I've been waiting for this day for a long time." Haha. As soon as the laughter started, Sky stopped and said solemnly as if he remembered something. "However, you have to be careful, Yin. Kingpin's #1 killer, Bullseye, is back. According to the news I got, he came back specifically to deal with you. You must be careful. He is very sharp." Hearing this, Yejeju couldn't help but be startled. He had known about Bullseye's existence for a long time, and he also knew that Bullseye was indeed a powerful person. In the show, even the equally powerful Daredevil Matt almost died at the hands of Bullseye. He should not be underestimated. You must know that although Yejeju's physical attributes are abnormal, he has not yet reached the state of invulnerability. If he is not careful, he will be pierced into the body by Bullseye's flying knife, and he will not die or be seriously injured. However, Yejeju is not afraid of Bullseye. He relies on the two mechanical war wolves. With them protecting him, Bullseye's flying knives will not be a problem at all as long as he is careful. Thinking of this, Yejeju couldn't help but nodded and said, "Thank you for the reminder, I will be extremely careful." After saying that, the system sound sounded again. Congratulations to the host for triggering the kill mission, killing Jinpin's #1 killer Bullseye. Completing the mission will reward the host with 500 experience points and a mechanical fly manufacturing blueprint *1. After listening to the system information, Yejeju was pleasantly surprised. According to the name, the mechanical fly was similar to an unmanned reconnaissance aircraft, but it was smaller than the drone. Although the specific performance of the mechanical fly is not yet known, Yejeju thought that according to the consistent black technology style of the mechanical space, its performance must be much better than the so-called drone. While concealing his excitement, he followed Sky's prompts to bypass the hidden sentry arranged by Kingpin and move towards Kingpin Group. After walking around like this for half an hour, Yejeju saw the towering Jinbin Group building. Looking at the building in front of him that was still brightly lit even though it was already midnight, Yejuju raised his hand and summoned Wolf Warriors 1 and 2 from the pet space. The appearance of the two mechanical dogs immediately shocked Parker, who had been following Yejuju, to the point of almost falling off the building. He was really shocked. Could Parker understand Yejuju's previous makeup and hide his identity? But Yejuju then conjured two full metal dogs out of thin air, which Parker could never understand. However, Parker soon became excited because he knew that Yejuju was no longer an ordinary person. If he and Yejuju got along with each other, there would be no barrier and they could get along happily. Then, Parker saw two big metal dogs coming out and surrounding Yejuju. They rubbed their heads on Yejuju's thighs affectionately. They didn't look like robot dogs at all. On the contrary, they looked like two big metal dogs. More like a real pet dog. Yejuju didn't know that Parker was following him on the building behind him. After reaching out to comfort Wolf Warrior 1 and 2, he gave the order to sneak into the Jinben building. Wolf Warrior number 1 immediately walked up to Yejuju, obviously preparing to explore the path, while number 2 retreated behind Yejuju, preparing to defend the back road. At this time, in a spacious room in Jinji building, Jinji's tall and burly body was lying on his back in a special boss chair, with his legs on the desk and a lit cigar in his right hand. And from time to time I would bring it to my mouth and take a sip. Holding a glass of red wine in his left hand, he shook it gently with his hand, glanced at it, and said to Bullseye, who was shooting at the target with a toothpick. "Bullseye, there is no news about that person yet? When can we kill him?" Bullseye paused in his throwing motion, and then continued to throw the toothpick in his hand. The toothpick shot out and shot into the target, making a dull do sound. If someone saw it, they would definitely think Bullseye was a martial arts master. Because the red star on the target was already densely pierced with no less than 15 toothpicks. You can imagine that a light bamboo toothpick could be shot into the target by Bullseye from 5 meters away. What a powerful method is this? Is it something that ordinary people can do? Bullseye stopped throwing, turned his bald head, raised his right hand and touched his head, then smiled evilly and said, "Persia. Don't worry. As long as that kid appears in Hell's Kitchen, I will take action against him. Haha, I won't kill him, I will shoot the tendons of his hands and feet with flying knives, so that he can't move. In the end, I will torture him bit by bit, making him wail in pain. And let those who have ideas about Persia see the consequences of opposing Persia, and finally kill him." Hee hee. After listening to Bullseye's evil words, Kingpin finally showed a satisfied smile on his greasy and fat face. He took a puff of cigar and exhaled a large puff of smoke and said, "I trust you to do things, Bullseye. You have never let me down, and I hope it will be the same this time." Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan-Chi. Chapter 75. At this moment, the police lights in the room suddenly flashed and a sharp alarm sounded. When Kingpin was about to take a sip of red wine, he suddenly paused. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and then he glared at a subordinate on the side and asked coldly in a voice without any emotion, "Tell me, what's going on?" When the subordinate heard this, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He hurriedly reached out and took out the walkie-talkie and asked, "Ed, tell me what happened. Why did the building's alarm go off?" After saying that, he released the button of the intercom, and a panicked voice came from inside. "Reporting to the boss, we were attacked, the person who attacked us was, Before he finished speaking, he heard his screams coming from the intercom, followed by a burst of electricity. There was a moment of silence in the room, and then Bullseye came up and said to Kingpin, whose face was so dark that it could drip water, "Persian, don't be nervous. No matter who they are, I will just deal with them." After saying that, Bullseye walked to the coffee table aside and picked up small and sharp knives from it one by one and inserted them into the hidden pockets on his body. If Yejuju saw this scene, he would definitely scold him as pervert. I saw that the coffee table was full of things, including flying knives more than 10 centimeters long, steel nails as short as lighters and as thick as chopsticks, steel needles the size of toothpicks, small boomerangs made of all steel, and there are round darts shaped like saw teeth, and there are even ninja-specific kunao and shurikens. Finally, there were a few very common daggers, which were also inserted into the thighs and boots by Bullseye. With no fewer than 100 hidden weapons on his body, anyone who sees it will shudder all over. After Bullseye packed up, he opened the door and walked out, scanning around with sharp eyes, ready to find his prey target. At this time, Yejuju, under the cover of Werewolf, had already entered Jinbin's building. All Jinbin's thugs who showed up would be killed by the two werewolves and Yejuju's mechanical crossbow. The people downstairs were all ordinary gangsters, who posed no threat to Yejuju, and there was no psychological burden on him if he killed them. However, it brought an indescribable shock to Parker on the rooftop opposite. He really didn't expect that Yejuju, a seemingly harmless high school student and a joker, would be so decisive in killing, as if killing someone was as simple as eating and drinking to Yejuju. But he didn't know that before entering the world of the Walking Dead, Yejuju, like him, had never killed anyone, but after killing so many walking zombies and fighting the Salvation Army, Yejuju became accustomed to killing people. It's not that Yejuju is cold-blooded. Yejuju will not kill people who can avoid killing them. But the people in Jinbin group are not like that. If Yejuju doesn't kill them, these people will definitely find an opportunity to kill Yejuju. Yejuju didn't want to think that when he was dealing with Jinbin and Bullseye, someone would come out to sneak attack him. In a word, a woman's kindness is not advisable, she kills when she should kill. Even if some people here are not ready to die, everything is for Yejuju's own safety as the first priority. Everyone on the first floor was cleared away by Yejuju and the two wolves. The remaining gangsters either hadn't rushed downstairs yet or were shocked by Yejuju's cool methods. Don't think that as a gangster under Kingpin, you are not afraid of death. This is not a movie. There are people who are not afraid of death, but not too many, even gangsters. Bullseye had already appeared at the railing on the second floor, and he also saw Yejuju, who was wearing cheap sportswear, and two wolves. He didn't have any contempt for Yejuju, nor did he overestimate him at all, but he was very interested in the two wolves. These two robot dogs are obviously made of all metal. They don't look bulky at all. Instead, they are quite flexible and not inferior to other canine creatures at all. It is because of the full mechanical power that the two mechanical dogs are more powerful, more flexible in running, and more terrifying in attack power. The key is that they are not afraid of bullets at all, and even the metal on the surface of their bodies cannot be shot. The crater comes. He saw with his own eyes that a big man who was nearly 2 meters tall and weighed more than 300 kilograms was knocked away by Werewolf for more than 10 meters. He fell to the ground and stopped moving. He didn't know whether he was dead or fainted. Seeing the power of Wolf Warrior with his own eyes made Bullseye want to get Wolf Warrior. If the group had these two metal dogs, who would dare to touch the Kingpin group? Walking forward slowly, Yejuju also noticed Bullseye's arrival, and immediately stood there, ready to receive Bullseye's hidden weapon at any time. Bullseye continued to walk forward. When he was 30 meters away from Yejuju, Bullseye's hand moved suddenly, and a dagger was thrown out by Bullseye. It was a very impressive power, causing the dagger to shoot towards Yejuju's right hand like a ray of light in the air. Yejuju was highly concentrated. With his 13 o'clock energy, he could even clearly see the trajectory of the dagger, and at one react within seconds. The upper body moved 5 centimeters to the left in a blink of an eye. After the roar of the wind, the dagger grazed Yejuju's arm and clothes and shot past. It hit the wall behind Yejuju with unabated force and made a crisp sound. There was a beep sound, and then it fell to the ground and made a clang sound. Bullseye's eyes suddenly lit up, and he actually raised his hands and clapped his hands. For Bullseye, few people could easily dodge the dagger he shot within 30 meters, and Yejuju was one of them. Yejuju looked up at Bullseye, and the evil smile made Yejuju very uncomfortable, wishing to beat his distinctive face into a pig head. Bullseye stood in front of the railing and said, "Mysterious man, I have been waiting for you for a long time. Next, please enjoy the feast I bring you." After the voice fell, Bullseye waved his left and right hands in succession, and shot 2 daggers at a very fast speed, respectively, and the daggers shot at Yejuju's left and right legs respectively. Then, Bullseye jumped down from the 2nd floor, and he didn't even roll when he landed, as if the falling force had no effect on him at all. From this, it can be seen that Bullseye not only has outstanding throwing ability, but also has extraordinary body endurance. Yejuju saw the trajectory of the 2 daggers, and before the daggers approached him, he suddenly flew into the air, and his body rotated twice in the air. The daggers shot past him before he fell to the ground. As soon as he landed on the ground, Yejuju started to fight back without hesitation, holding up the mechanical crossbow and firing 3 consecutive shots. The 3 crossbow arrows formed a pin shape, blocking the bullseye's body, leaving the bullseye nowhere to hide. Originally thought that the bullseye would be injured even if he didn't die under such an attack, but the outcome was beyond Yejuju's expectations. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan-Chi. Chapter 76. But Bullseye's body retreated rapidly, and he waved his hands continuously while retreating. Several silver lights that ordinary people could not see shot out from his hands one after another. There were almost no order in the air. The sound of ding-ding rang out quickly, and 3 crossbow arrows were blocked by Bullseye with steel nails halfway. Bullseye's action was not slower than Yejuju's reaction. After shooting down 3 crossbow arrows, he waved his hands again. A few black lights flashed, and Yejuju saw 4 ninja-specific kunaus shooting at his head, eyes, chest, and abdomen. The speed was not much slower than the crossbow arrows shot from his mechanical crossbow. Fortunately, Yejuju's physical fitness reached 5, and his reaction speed was naturally not comparable to Bullseye. He let go of the mechanical crossbow with both hands, and took out 2 dog-leg knives from his hand with a flick of his hand. He waved his hands continuously, and several bright knife lights flashed, and with the sound of ding-dong, all 4 kunau were knocked to the ground. This is not over yet. Bullseye seemed to know that 4 kunau could not do anything to Yejuju, and he shook his hand and threw a hidden weapon. The hidden weapon broke through the air with a whoa sound. Yejuju concentrated and looked, and it was a silver boomerang. This gave Yejuju a headache. There are many people who can use boomerangs, but not many can use them to perfection. But Bullseye is an absolute master among them. The boomerang he threw can not only block it once or twice, but also easily hit it to the ground. But Yejuju would never admit defeat or run away. While watching the boomerangs coming and preparing to meet it, he ordered Wolf Warrior No. 1 to attack Bullseye to prevent Bullseye from taking the opportunity to throw a hidden weapon to attack him. Just as Wolf Warrior No. 1 charged at Bullseye, the boomerang also drew an arc and shot in front of Yejuju. Yejuju raised his hand and swung his knife, and with a ding sound, the boomerang flew away. The boomerang bounced out in response, drew a large semicircle in the air, and then circled back, shooting from behind Yejuju to the back of Yejuju's neck. On the other side, Wolf Warrior No. 1 had already rushed to more than 10 meters in front of Bullseye. Seeing the Wolf Warrior rushing over, Bullseye's eyes lit up, and his hands waved again and again, and 4 steel nails shot at the Wolf Warrior, but the target was the Wolf Warrior's eyes and head. Bullseye did this to try to find out the Wolf Warrior's weakness, to see if the control hub was in the Wolf Warrior's eyes and head. Unfortunately, the upgraded Wolf Warrior's body now could not be broken by the steel nails shot by Bullseye. The speed of the Wolf Warrior in the charge did not decrease at all, and with the sound of ding ding dang dang, he let the steel nails hit his head and continued to rush towards Bullseye. Bullseye's body retreated rapidly, but he discovered the Wolf Warrior's real weakness while retreating, which was the joints of the limbs. Indeed, even though the Wolf Warrior has been upgraded, its joints are still relatively weak. If it is hit at a critical point, it will not die, but its movements will be greatly restricted, or even unable to move. After finding the Wolf Warrior's weakness, Bullseye did not hesitate at all. He shook his hand and shot 2 shurikens and 2 steel nails in a second, aiming at the joints of Wolf Warrior's limbs. On the other side, Yejuju had blocked 3 boomerangs, but there was no sign of the force on the boomerang weakening. This made Yejuju helpless. Of course, he knew what the principle was. It was nothing more than using the force of blocking the boomerang to drive the boomerang to fly out and spin. But if it was not blocked, it would hit him. What should he do? After blocking the boomerang again, Yejuju suddenly thought of Tai Chi. Yes, it was Tai Chi. The principle of Tai Chi is to release force and use force to fight force. Thinking of this, Yejuju's eyes lit up. Boomerangs are rotating attacks, and they also use the force to spin back and forth. So, why not use the principles of Tai Chi to find the center of force of the boomerang and remove the force on it, so that the boomerang can be completely stopped? Thinking of this, Yejuju immediately perked up, looked at the boomerang coming back carefully, identified the middle part of the boomerang, and prepared to catch the boomerang with the tip of the knife. At this moment, Yejuju heard a series of clangs and booms sounds, but he had no time to look back. It was only from the consciousness transmitted by the Wolf Warrior that the Wolf Warrior's limbs were shot by the bullseye, which stuck its limbs and temporarily prevented it from continuing to attack and charge. Yejuju suddenly felt a headache and distressed. You know, Wolf Warrior number 1 has been with him the longest in the world of the Walking Dead. Yejuju has never regarded Wolf Warrior number 1 as an emotionless mechanical creature, but a real partner. But this is not the time for him to be distracted. Even if he wants Wolf Warrior number 2 to help, he can't. After all, Wolf Warrior 2 was clearing out the gang members who were rushing with guns. If it weren't for Wolf Warrior 2, Yejuju would not only have to face Bullseye's hidden weapons, but also countless bullets. Fortunately, Yejuju also found a way to deal with the boomerang. Although he was not very skilled, his superb physical fitness still gave him super strong body control. Just as the boomerang spun back, Yejuju moved, and the dog-leg knife in his right hand stretched out quickly, and accurately hit the center of the boomerang. Then the tip of the knife moved quickly in the direction of the boomerang's rotation, and the boomerang was fixed on the tip of the knife. This scene not only made Bullseye stunned and completely forgot to take the opportunity to attack Yejuju, even Parker, who had followed, stood there incredibly, forgetting that he wanted to help Yejuju. In a few breaths, the boomerang turned slower and slower, and finally stopped, and the power was exhausted and fell to the ground from the tip of the knife. Yejuju exhaled, and without hesitation, he raised his hand and fired 3 crossbow arrows at the bullseye. Bullseye immediately reacted and threw a few steel nails, intending to continue to block Yejuju's crossbow arrows. At this moment, Yejuju suddenly released the mechanical crossbow, took out a mechanical trap from the space, and threw it hard at the bullseye. Then, Yejuju rushed to the pillar on one side without any hesitation, hiding his whole body behind the pillar. Bullseye had just intercepted 3 crossbow arrows when he saw a black thing flying towards him. Subconsciously, Bullseye shook his hand and threw a dagger out. There was a clang in the air, and the black thing was hit by the dagger. After a pause, there was a hum in the next moment, and the black thing not only did not fall to the ground, but was ejected into the air. Then, under the wide-eyed gaze of the target, the thing hovered in the air, and a series of dense swoosh sounds were heard, which made the target's scalp numb. The target had no time to dodge and could not dodge, and did not even make any dodging or resistance movements, with deep confusion in his eyes. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 77. With a series of pop sounds, at least 10 steel balls and 3 arrows were shot into his body between his head and chest and abdomen. Almost 3 seconds later, after all the arrows and steel balls in the trap were shot out, the trap fell from the air to the ground. After making a clang sound, Bullseye's body fell straight on his back. Yejuju then poked his head out from behind the pillar, glanced at Bullseye's dead body, and heard the system sound. Congratulations to the host for completing the killing mission. Kill Kingpin's #1 killer, Bullseye. Completion of the mission will reward the host with 500 experience points and a mechanical fly manufacturing blueprint *1. After the killing mission was completed, Yejuju finally let out a breath and immediately ducked out from behind the pillar. At the same time, he put the empty trap into the space, walked quickly to the wolf warrior who fell on the ground, and looked at it carefully. After a while, Yejuju couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He reached out and pulled out the shurikens and steel nails embedded in the limb joints of Warrior Wolf 1, and then put Warrior into the mechanical space. It was too late for repairs, so he could only talk about it after returning. Yejuju stood up, picked up the mechanical crossbow and rushed towards the stairwell of the building. In the stairwell, screams and gunshots were heard from time to time. Yejuju knew that these were Wolf Warrior 2's men who were killing Jin Bing. After Yejuju left, Parker's figure also walked into the building. Seeing the mess on the ground and many corpses, Parker's body suddenly bent down, his face wearing a mask trembled, and he heard a few wow, vomiting sound came. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Fortunately, Parker could restrain himself and finally suppressed the urge to vomit. Without looking at the body on the ground, he hurriedly rushed towards the stairwell. In the end, he couldn't bear to see his best friend taking risks alone and was ready to help Yejuju. Although he didn't know who these people were, he could see that the people killed by Yejuju were not good people and were probably gang members. This could be seen from the many rifles they had. What neither of them knew was that Parker's appearance had already attracted Sky's attention, and he was even very excited. Because, from the camera, he clearly saw Parker flying between buildings like a spider, always following Yejuju. She had no intention of telling Yejuju that someone was following him, and even wanted to see Yejuju have some conflict with this magical Spider-Man in a bad way. It would be best to beat up the hateful Yin. With the addition of Yejuju, the ordinary gangsters in the building were quickly cleaned up by Wolf Warrior 2 and Yejuju. One person and one pet came to the floor where Jinpin was located. There were more than 30 Jinpin men gathered in the corridor here, carrying rifles and even machine guns and rocket launchers. Naturally, Yejuju would not rush up rashly. He squatted in front of the wall of the stairwell. Yejuju took out a small mirror and poked it out from the corner. From the mirror, he saw Jinbin's men gathering in the corridor. Yejuju took back his hand. Secretly said Lucky. Fortunately, he had developed the habit of being careful when doing things in the world of The Walking Dead, and did not rush out immediately, otherwise he would definitely be beaten into a hornet's nest by bullets. When you see the enemy, you don't have to waste too much effort to deal with them. You must know that Yejuju's trap is a powerful weapon for mass killing. There is no need to wait any longer at this time. The next moment, Yejuju took out a trap from the space and threw it from the stairwell into the corridor. Jinami's men, who were on full alert, saw a black object being thrown over, and immediately exclaimed grenade, and everyone subconsciously crawled to the ground. Then, the trap hit the wall and bounced into the sky above the corridor. Then dense arrows and steel balls were shot out, covering most of Kingpin's men lying on the ground. Countless screams rang out one after another. Yejuju counted 3 numbers silently in his mind and gave the order to rush out to Wolf Warrior 2. He also picked up the mechanical crossbow with replaced steel balls and rushed out of the stairwell. With a clang, the empty trap fell to the ground. Yejuju and Zhang Lang rushed into the corridor and unceremoniously shot all Jinbin's men who were still moving. The wolf warriors were also unceremonious and rushed into the crowd. Using their mouths, claws, and tail stings, they killed Jinbin's men one by one who still had the breath of life. In just over 10 seconds, more than 30 of Jinbing's men were killed by one person, which meant that Jinbing was already alone at this time. However, Yejuju did not dare to underestimate Jinbing. Don't think that Jinbing was just a strong man. Countless experiences and lessons made Yejuju understand a truth. If you underestimate any opponent, you will be killed inexplicably. After passing through the pile of corpses, Yejuju and Werewolf 2 came to the door of a room. Yejuju hid behind the wall and let Werewolf 2 break open the door and rush in. Wolf Warrior 2 faithfully carried out Yejuju's order, took a few steps back and then crashed towards the door. With a bang, bang sound, the door was knocked open. Wolf Warrior 2 also rushed in, and the sound of fighting immediately rang out in the room. Strangely enough, there was no sound of gunfire, but the sound of the impact of cold weapons. Yejuju looked into the room and saw a fat black man at least 2 meters tall in a huge and oversized office, fighting with Wolf Warrior 2 with the crutch in his hand. What surprised Yejuju was that despite the fact that the Wolf Warrior's body was made of all metal and had an attack power of 1,500 kilograms, it was unable to get close to him under Fatty's attack. Even the Wolf Warrior's tail spines could not hurt Fatty at all. Yejuju walked into the room with a mechanical crossbow. The mocking look on Fatty's face made Yejuju very uncomfortable. Then Fatty confronted Wolf Warrior 2 and said, "Can you please get your damn metal lump out of the way? You saw it too, it's no match for me. Can we talk first?" Hearing this, Yejuju did not agree to Jinbing's request, and continued to use his consciousness to order Wolf Warrior 2 to keep an eye on Jinbing, shrugged and said, "Impossible. I won't give the villain a chance to make a comeback, just say whatever last words you have. I'll listen." Hearing this, surprise and anger flashed across Jinbin's eyes, but he did not dare to relax his vigilance against Wolf Warrior and said, "Can you tell me who you are? Why are you here to kill me? If I remember correctly, it seems that I haven't offended you, right?" Hearing this, Yejuju was wary of Jinbin's small tricks, and took a look at the layout of the room. After finding that there was no danger in the room, he replied, "I won't tell you who I am. You're not wrong, you didn't offend me, I just wanted to complete the task." Hearing this, Jin was not surprised at all, he just thought it was true and said, "Oh, a mission? For a bounty? How much? 100,000 or 1 million? I can give you double it. I will give it to you as soon as you leave here." Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuanqi. Chapter 78. Yejuju rolled his eyes when he heard this, remembering that in countless movies and TV shows, almost all the villains would say this when they met an assassin, as if they thought saying this would make the assassin rebel. Thinking of this, Yejuju said in a wicked way, "Oh, are you willing to give me money? My reward is very high, not much." Yejuju stretched out his left hand, opened his palm in the air and said, 50 million. Hearing this, Jinbing felt that he had been tricked by Yejuju. He was the biggest gangster and had never had a killing business. He wanted to pay as much as 50 million. Yejuju's words were obviously disgusting to him. "Just kidding, what is double 50 million? 100 million. It's not Vietnamese dong or something, this is 100 million rice gold. Not to mention his gold merger, even if it were replaced by any rich man, it would be impossible to easily come up with 100 million in cash." But he didn't know that Yejuju was not joking at all, and the reward given to him by the system was 50 million rice gold. Jinping no longer wants to talk to Yejuju anymore, and he also understands that if he wants to survive, he can only kill Yejuju and this disgusting robot dog. The next moment, Jinping raised his head and suddenly let out a cry of pain. Then his fat body, which was already 2 meters tall, continued to grow taller, and finally stopped when he reached 2 meters and 4 meters. All the shirts on his body were torn apart and hung on Jinping's body like strips of cloth. On the fat. Not only was he 4 centimeters taller, but his already fat body was also a lot wider. Yejuju made a visual inspection and found that his figure weighed not only 500 pounds but also 400 pounds. It wasn't over yet. The swollen Jin threw out the crutches like toothpicks in his hands. He tore each other with his hands and tore off all the shirt strips that were in the way. After roaring, he raised his hand and pressed down on Wolf Warrior 2. Go down. Wolf Warrior 2 was not afraid of Jinping, who was getting taller and bigger. He jumped up as soon as his limbs were on the ground, opened his mouth and pounced on Jinping. Yejuju looked at Jinping in surprise, and secretly felt lucky for his own wisdom. Fortunately, he didn't feel that Jinping was the turtle in the urn, and he never let Wolf Warrior 2 relax his vigilance. Judging from Jinping, who had grown taller and bigger at this time, Yejuju had no doubt that the consequences of letting Wolf Warriors go away would be him. Face such a king directly. Even a bad one will be killed instantly by such a kingpin. Especially Yejuju didn't know what special abilities such Jinping had, and he didn't dare to attack Jinping easily at this time. He had to at least let Warwolf test Jinping's abilities in order to make the best decision. Response plan. Sure enough, at this time Jinping had already broken away from the level of mortal body. At least the metal fangs, sharp claws and tail spines of the wolf warriors could not hurt Jinping in this state, and they could not even break the skin. This leads us to the conclusion that Kingpin's body is almost the same as the Hulk's and is invulnerable. As for strength, Yejuju's evaluation is that it is far from the Hulk. A wolf warrior with at least 1,500 kilograms of attack power can compete with Jinping at this time. This also made Yejuju feel relieved. At least there was a war wolf holding Jinping down, so he didn't have to worry about his own safety. It was only at this time that Yejuju also understood why Kingpin could rule Hell's Kitchen and had perverts like Bullseye under his command, because Kingpin himself was a big pervert. But even if the war wolf restrained Jinping, Yejuju retreated, wary that Jinping would abandon the war wolf and suddenly rush towards him, and he could control himself or even hurt himself. 10 meters away from the battlefield, Yejuju picked up the mechanical crossbow and began to look for opportunities to shoot Jinping. The cloth labels are naturally Jinping's eyes, ears, temples, and other vital parts. At this moment, a figure flashed into the door. The vigilant Yejuju subconsciously turned the mechanical crossbow and aimed it in the direction of the door. However, he unexpectedly saw Parker in a tight-fitting red and blue uniform, and suddenly exclaimed, "P.A. Spider-Man! Why are you following me?" Fortunately, Yejuju reacted quickly and almost called out Parker's name. When Parker saw Yejuju pointing the crossbow at him, he hurriedly raised his hands and shouted loudly, "No, no, no, don't mess around. I followed you all the way. You're so stupid. You came out to deal with these bad guys by yourself, and you didn't even tell me, and you said you were your best friend. Also, you have so many abilities and weird abilities, why don't you tell me? Do you still consider me your best friend? I'm very unhappy. You have to give me an answer that satisfies me, you know? Otherwise." After a while of nagging and complaining that left Yejuju speechless, Parker saw Jinping, who was fighting Wolf Warrior, and suddenly shouted again, "Oh my God! What kind of monster is this? Why is it so tall and fat? Is this a human?" Hearing this, Yejuju rolled his eyes helplessly again, knowing that his secret had been known to Parker. "I couldn't hide it anymore. I just blamed myself for being too impatient and too careless. I forgot that Spider-Man's perception was also very sensitive, so I asked Parker to follow him. While continuing to look back at Kingpin, he said, "I don't know. I guess this is also a human mutation, the cause is still unclear. At present, we only know that his strength has been enhanced, but it does not exceed 1,500 kilograms, but his body's defense ability has been greatly improved, at least he is invulnerable." Hearing this, Parker immediately became interested and walked to Yejuju. His hands couldn't help shaking and he shouted, "Oh! Is it so powerful? Let me try it." After Parker raised his hands, he shot out two small spider webs with his left and right hands, aiming at Jinbing's hands. Seeing Parker's action, Yejuju secretly said, "Oops." Sure enough, although Jinbing was entangled by the werewolf, he could still pay attention to the attacks around him. Yejuju knew this when he shot Jinbing with a mechanical crossbow. Because, every time Yejuju shot the steel ball, Jinbing would dodge it effortlessly, and if it was really difficult to dodge, he would use other parts of his body to take it. In fact, just as Yejuju thought, Jinbing could actually defend himself in the fight with the werewolf. When the spider web was about to hit him, he suddenly stretched out his hands and grabbed the werewolf's front paws. With a loud roar, he pulled the body of the werewolf in front of him and blocked the spider web shot by Parker. Sadly, the mouth and two hind legs of the werewolf were tightly entangled by the spider web. Don't underestimate this kind of spider web. At least Yejuju knew that without 2,000 kilograms of strength, it is impossible to tear the spider web apart. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Dachuan Chi. Chapter 79. Seeing this, Yejuju shouted angrily, "Damn Spider-Man, are you just here to help? Damn it, attack him quickly, don't let him get close to us." After Wolf Warrior was controlled, he was no longer a match for Jinbin. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Jinbin let out a weird laugh, and with a strong effort from his hands, he lifted up the whole body of Wolf Warrior, which was as heavy as a pound, and without saying a word, it was like he was smashed down on the concrete floor. There was a loud bang, and a big hole was made in the hard concrete floor by Zhang Lang's body, and then Zhang Lang's body was thrown downstairs. Fortunately, the Wolf Warrior's body is made of all metal and is very strong. Even though it was hit hard by Kingpin downstairs, it did not fall apart at all. However, it is possible to break free from the spider webs and use it as a human shield. Yejuju held a mechanical crossbow and fired at Jinbin one after another to stop Jinbin from rushing in front of the two men. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. When Parker saw this situation, he knew that he was in trouble. He felt guilty and said hurriedly, "Oh. Sorry, I didn't mean to." After saying that, before Yejuju could stop him, Parker rushed out facing Jinbing. Seeing this, Yejuju knew what to do. Regardless of Parker's reaction ability, strength, and other physical enhancements, he was really no match for the transformed Jinbin. He didn't see the Hulk beating Luo, who was much more powerful than Parker. Did he catch it in his hand and hit it with a ball? Sure enough, while muttering to himself, Parker rushed towards Kingpin, who was blocking his eyes with one hand, and cleverly shot a spider web towards Kingpin's raised left hand. This time, the spider web worked, and actually stuck Jinbin's left hand to Jinbin's face, which immediately stopped Jinbin, who was moving forward despite the steel balls. Seeing this, Yejuju simply put down the mechanical crossbow in his hand, raised his hands, and also used the spinner on his wrist to shoot at Jinbin. Seeing that the spider web was effective, Parker shouted excitedly and continued to shoot spider webs at Kingpin, trying to completely control Kingpin. Although it was the first time for the two to fight together, They had a tacit understanding and one of them shot Jinping's upper body, mainly Jinping's hands. One person shot out a spider web, hoping to wrap around Jinping's legs and completely control Jinping in place, unable to move. Needless to say, this effect is very obvious. Although Kingpin has transformed, he is obviously not strong enough, not even comparable to the mutated lizard Dr. Connors. Otherwise, the cobwebs of the two of them would not be able to trap Jinping. Unfortunately, both of them seemed to have forgotten one thing, and that was Kingpin's defense. After Jinping was entangled in dense cobwebs and fell to the ground unable to stand any longer, both of them couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. However, they sadly discovered that Jinping was completely defenseless at this time. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Seeing Jinping's left hand fixed in front of Jinping's eyes, Yejeju was dumbfounded and looked at Parker speechlessly. He even suspected that Parker was here to cause trouble. This made Yejeju how to kill Jinping and complete the task. However, Parker still didn't have the slightest awareness. He even spread his legs and made a very strange move. He raised one hand high forward and bent the other hand to the side of his head. He shouted excitedly. "Hey! We won! I, Spider-Man, won a huge victory in my first shot. Cheer for me! How should I call you instead? What is your code name?" Hearing this, Yejeju's face under the helmet couldn't help but twitch. He glanced at Parker speechlessly, and finally said weakly. "My name is Yin, you can call me that." Spider-Man. Yejeju said the last three words word for word, obviously very dissatisfied with Parker. Parker didn't hear it at all, and was still immersed in the joy of victory. At this moment, Sky's uncontrollable laughter came from the earphones and said. "Giggle. Great. Yin. Isn't it great to have such a companion? Who is he? Do you know him? If you call him Spider-Man, does his ability be the same as that of a spider? Haha, it's so fun." Hearing this, Yejeju hung his head helplessly. He knew that with Parker's appearance, his identity could no longer be hidden from Sky. His whereabouts were well hidden, but with Parker following him all the way, Sky's hacking skills could easily find Parker's figure, and he could determine his whereabouts. Shaking his head, Yejeju said. You can call him Spider-Man, forget the name. You can regard him as our future partner. Okay, I won't tell you any more. Help me hold off those policemen, I don't want to kill Jin again, and before that, the police came and disturbed me. Okay. Don't worry. I will block the news here until you retreat safely. Yejeju nodded, walked to Jinping and squatted down. At this time, Jinping could not see his surroundings at all. His body was covered with cobwebs. No matter how hard he struggled, he could not break free from the shackles of the cobwebs. He could only squirm in vain like a fish caught in a net. Parker also squatted down at this time, looked at Jin and said to Yejeju. Yin. Are you still going to kill him? Why don't you hand him over to the police? If you kill him, you are committing a crime. Do you know that? Hearing this, Yejeju replied without even raising his head. There is an old saying in China called abolition of evil without eradicating it, which means that to eradicate evil, we must cut off the root of evil. Do you understand? This man is called Kingpin. The crimes he committed are enough to make him die 10,000 times. Sending him to prison will not make him reform, nor will it quiet down his criminal gangs. This world is a money society. Money can get you pardoned. Spider-Man, you must remember one sentence, with great power comes great responsibility. You are not an ordinary person, so you have the obligation to eradicate people like Kingpin and protect ordinary people from their persecution. Think about it carefully. After saying that, Yejeju lowered his head and looked at Kingpin, muttering subconsciously. That's not right. If he is really invulnerable, Why did he transform and kill me when I broke in? Thinking of this, Yejuju's eyes suddenly lit up, and he thought of a possible result, that is, Kingpin's transformation has a limit, and this limit is likely to be the duration of the transformation. Thinking of this, Yejuju immediately relaxed. 10 minutes have passed since Kingpin transformed and fought until now. If Yejuju's estimate is correct, Kingpin's transformation is likely to not exceed half an hour. Thinking of this possible result, Yejuju said to Jinbing tentatively. I have to say, Jinbing, your transformation is very powerful. It almost makes it impossible for me to kill you. But I guess, your transformation must have a time limit, right? After a pause, Yejuju noticed that Jinbing's body trembled subconsciously, and he knew more in his heart, and continued. Well, I guess. Your transformation can only last for half an hour at most? Am I right, Jinbing? Across the Heavens, Marvel's Mechanical Hunter. Author, Chuanqi. Chapter 80. At this time, Jinbing seemed to have been told by Yejuju about his vulnerability. His body began to squirm more loudly, and he made a vague woo sound from his mouth. Seeing this, Yejuju smiled proudly. He obviously knew that he had guessed correctly, so he relaxed completely. He could afford to wait for half an hour. Since it was still early, Yejuju stood up and looked around the room. The purpose was very simple, just to find the safe that Jinbin kept here. After all, if you want to buy vibranium from Wakanda, it is impossible without money. After searching for a long time, Yejuju finally found the safe hidden behind the wall. To deal with such a thing, Yejuju could just ask Wolf Warrior 2 to take action. Now that Parker has seen his own methods, there is no need to avoid Parker. After some violent destruction by Wolf Warrior 2, the safe was completely pulled out from the wall and stored in the space. Parker was in a state of confusion the whole time. He never expected that Yejuju would be so greedy for money, not only killing people but also taking away all Jinbing's property. However, Parker also understood that Yejuju must have his own purpose for doing this, so he kept refraining from asking. At this time, he had been thinking about the special meaning of Yejuju's words, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. To be honest, after getting the spider ability, he was not only panicked and excited, but also confused. Confused about his future. Should he hide his abilities and continue living an ordinary life, or should he punish evildoers like Yejuju? Half an hour passed quickly. Jinbin's body, which was completely covered by the spider web, shrank rapidly like a flat tire. Jinbin's woo cry became more urgent, obviously. I want to speak and beg for mercy. Yejuju stood in front of Jinbing, condescendingly raising the mechanical crossbow without hesitation, and when Jinbing completely returned to his original size, he pulled the trigger. Whoosh, 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 puff, puff, puff sounded 3 times in succession, but Yejuju shined a light on Jinbing's head, and shot out a steel ball in 3 locations, his heart and throat. Jinbing's body trembled on the ground, and then stopped moving. One can imagine how miserable Jinbing's death was at this time. He even didn't know who killed him in the end. Even if he wanted to say something cruel or beg for mercy, he had no chance. He felt aggrieved and aggrieved. After killing Jinbing, the system voice also sounded in Yejuju's mind. Congratulations to the host for completing World Hidden Mission 1. Eradicating the Jinbin group will reward you with 1000 experience points and 50 million in cash. Yejuju couldn't help but let out a breath, pulled Parker and ordered Warwolf to clear the way ahead. The two quickly went downstairs and left the Kingpin building, and evacuated Hell's Kitchen under Sky's command. This time, they didn't avoid Sky anymore, and the two went straight back to Yejuju's house. In Yejuju's bedroom, Yejuju and Parker sat opposite each other. After a long silence, Yejuju sighed and said, "Hey. If you have anything to ask, just ask, Parker." Hearing this, Parker raised his head and looked at Yejuju carefully. After a long while, he took a deep breath and said, "Why did you kill those people? When did you gain those abilities? What are the functions of your abilities? What are your future plans?" A series of questions gave Yejuju a headache. Yejuju didn't know where to start for a while. After a long while, Yejuju said, "Parker, you don't think that you and I are the only ones with special abilities in this world, do you?" Hearing this, Parker shook his head in confusion and looked at Yejuju, waiting for Yejuju to continue explaining. Yejuju glanced at the confused Parker and continued. "You can get special abilities through spiders, and so can other people. Potions, insects, animals, rays, etc. Then the biggest question is, are people who get abilities good people? No, no. There are capable people, there are good people and bad people, and there are also good people who have been treated unfairly and have been blinded by power. So, what should we do? Should we lose ourselves like them or ignore them, or use our abilities to protect the world woolen cloth?" When Parker heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. It had to be said that Americans all have the dream of a lone hero, and Parker was no exception. Yejuju's words just scratched Parker's itch. Regardless of Parker and Yejuju, who were already getting excited, they continued. "This universe is very dangerous. Not only are we ordinary people there, but there are also other aliens outside the Earth. They may be peace-loving, or they may be aggressive, so there will be many enemies we will encounter in the future. Mutated people with special abilities, aliens. And my ability is to create mechanical creations with black technology to fight against those enemies. I think you also know that if you want to continue to create those mechanical creations, you need a lot of money, right?" Hearing this, Parker nodded confusedly, but he felt something was wrong, but he couldn't react for the moment. Seeing that Parker had been fooled by him, Yejuju continued. "The reason why I want to kill Kingpin and the others is because they have a lot of money that I need. Of course, the key point is that Kingpin and the others are heinous villains. Killing them will only purify the world. Please also believe me, I will not use my ability to destroy the order of this world. Please also join me in the future to fight against those bad guys who are destroying the world order, okay?" Parker. Hearing this, Parker suddenly became excited, nodded firmly, stretched out a hand and said, "Yeah. Yeah. I will help you. Just like you helped me before. Let's work together, okay? Yeah. Let's work together, to maintain world peace." Hearing this, Yejuju also smiled and stretched out his hand to give Parker a high five, and shouted with Parker, "Maintain world peace." After saying that, both of them laughed. After finally being too excited to fall asleep, Parker went back to his room to rest. Yejuju was lying on the bed, repairing Wolf Warrior 1 in the mechanical space, and thinking about what he had to do next. First, you have to find an opportunity to leave school. It is impossible to continue studying. Tired? Second, Sky is still a big and unstable trouble. Now that he knows his identity, he has to tie Sky to his side completely. Otherwise, when she is discovered by Coulson, he will no longer be able to hide it. Besides, Sky is also very capable, and being able to tie her to his side will be a very powerful help. Third, find a way to find Wakanda and purchase vibranium to complete the world mission. For Yejuju, this is a very difficult task. Vibranium in Wakanda is not easy to buy, and it is not easy to find it in Wakanda.